Asunder. After the War of the Worlds. For more information, please visit servingworlds.com. Written and performed by John Miro. The air was split by a klaxon. Marcus had heard the machine-made sound before, but never filling a room this large. Dozens of people huddled to either side of the entry, holding hands over their ears. More soldiers backed in, weapons raised, shouting in warning. The pirates had found them. Energy beams cut through them, taking down one soldier, tearing several burning holes into the bright alien deck. As the last soldier crossed past the bubbling foam joining the ship to the cavern, a silver-white light flared all across the opening. The hairs on Marcus's arm stood up. Electric static charge flooded the room. A sign, along with the light, that a massive force wall had just been engaged. The more experienced green and brown-helmeted soldiers raced back into the field of fire to aid their fallen comrades, with enough experience under the belts to not care about the multicolored blasts painting the invisible wall across the entryway and making several white-hat soldiers jump for cover, screaming. Marcus didn't share the white hat's fear. He, like the more experienced soldiers, knew nothing short of a sustained blast from the cannon he'd put on Pegasus could get through that field now. A rumble was building in the bowels of the ship, and somehow Marcus guessed the pirates would not have the time to mount such an assault. Sure enough, the blast stopped almost immediately after the force wall was raised. A ragged cheer grew as the pirates showed their backside, racing back down the boardwalk and out of sight. "In quite a hurry," Hobe panted beside him. Marcus nodded. "I've got a good idea why." A white metal door shot through with light green and lavender began to descend. Before it was halfway to the deck, the ship gave a shudder and pulled away from the tunnel wall. All assembled grew quiet as water under the pressure of 80 fathoms jetted into the tunnel. In half a second, white raging spray filled the tunnel. Marcus didn't feel the tug on his arm at first. "Marcus," Dr. Gray said again quietly, "they would have killed every one of us if they had the chance." He knew it and nodded. What were a few pirates compared to the dozens of lives saved in this room? As you sow, so shall you reap. It was as close to a prayer for the soul of the pirates as he could manage. "Come," Dr. Gray said again, and Marcus let himself be led backwards through the stunned crowd, still watching the closing door. A moment later, other doors closed before his eyes, and Marcus looked around. He was in a bubble shape, almost 10 feet high. He realized it was a lift. Hobe and Dr. Grace were with him. Hobe was running shaky fingers over his mouth. "Hell of a thing." "Not compared to the invasion," Marcus heard himself say. "1 million people killed by those things just in London. Isn't that right, Doc?" Dr. Grace drew a breath. "Close enough." All were silent for a while. "Where are we going?" Hobe finally asked. "The bridge." Marcus jerked upright, startling the doctor. "You think they're starting the project? Right now?" The doctor opened his mouth in reply, just as everyone's stomachs lurched. The lift had stopped, abruptly, and the door flashed open. A gust of wind came in, dispelling the last of the smoke. The too sweet scent of wild honey and cinnamon instantly filled his nostrils again. He'd caught whiffs of the scent before today, just as jarringly pleasant when it was leaking out of Invader suits or walking machines. Another vast circular room awaited them, not quite on the order of a West End theatre as the first room, but still very impressive. It was a match in size to perhaps the lobby of a grand hotel like the Ritz-Carlton, complete with metallic green pillars and a number of raised bubbles around a massive light pool in the center. A dozen soldiers and civilians stood silently, gathered around those bubbles. 2 and 3 men sat in each, hands dancing over controls. In the center of the room, the light pool, like the one in the doctor's laboratory, but this one the size of a building, swimming in midair. It was filled with a gray haze or some sort of static or interference, or at least so Marcus thought at first. "What the hell?" Hope began, and then made a gagging sound. Marcus, too, felt a second of vertigo before he could process what the light pool really showed. "My Aunt Sally!" gasped the doctor. That amused Marcus. Usually Dr. Grace was the first to grasp the strange, the unusual. The view in the pool exploded with the light of day, and the surging gray field dropped quickly away to show something like the view a man might have, holding his ground neck deep in water against a crashing wave. Churning water had filled the light pool, and now it was gone. The view wasn't much different than standing at the front of a boat making good speed through the water. Of course, from the bow of a ship, the waves didn't get smaller. The perspective shifted impossibly fast, but Marcus's mind constructed a fancy to help him hang on. Now he was a bird, soaring high above the water on the wind. This was a skyship bigger than a building, that had risen in minutes from the depths of the channel, and now it flew through the air. "Jesus, Mary, Mother," Hope began. "And Joseph, yes, Mr. Martin, we know," Dr. Grace finished for him, good-natured teasing coloring his tone again. "In fact, that's a fitting name for our vessel, a mother ship." His tone soured again. "This is the one that ferried the creatures and machines to London. But it's too soon to launch her. All my staff's back in Folkestone." The doctor of science strode forward towards the soldiers seated in the closest bubble-like pedestal. "You men," his voice boomed in the great room, "take me to your leader." "What is it, Dr. Grace? We're quite busy." Marcus glowered silently at Lieutenant Colonel Mary as he appeared from behind one of the pedestals. "Good grief, don't tell me Vicky put a soldier in charge. The project is underway, isn't it?" "How dare you!" Mary blustered. "Queen Victoria has graced Lord Timbray with command." "Not I, thank the Lord, and I saw him escorted aboard with the other American just before you." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "What American? You're going to—" Hope's finger made the familiar rising corkscrew motion, but the whistle died on his lips when Mary stabbed a finger at him. "Hold your tongue!" Mary's other hand fell to the pommel of his sword. "Your betters are speaking." Hope's eyes narrowed, but Marcus stepped on his foot, dragging his attention back to him. He shook his head and glared, and for once Hope stayed quiet. "Why did Barton have to get himself killed? I don't have time to train you, too!" Dr. Grace shouted. "It's too soon. We need Hale here. He's the one that proved where the rocks were coming from. And Lassell, if you found him alive. Good God, man, we still don't know half what we need for us to be bound for Selene." And where on earth was Selene? Marcus wondered, then froze. "Oh," he thought, struck dumb. Selene. "As military leader of this expedition, yes, I have set the plan to action. If we are to stop the Blitz, then we cannot turn back for any reason." "Why? Because some pirate snuck into the mousehole? A tragedy for some, I grant you, but—" The ship shuddered, and the view in the light pool spun crazily, then settled on another view of the channel. Now Marcus could make out land. England or France, he couldn't tell. And then he stopped looking for markers when he saw something large hanging in the air. The view wavered again, and the something hanging in the air exploded in size to fill the light pool to the edges, then shrank slightly for clarity under someone's hand. A skyship like those ones Marcus had fought in the harbor. No, he realized, as 4, then 6, then 9 energy beams raced out of the ship towards the camera. The floor beneath him shook hard a moment later, and Marcus fell on his backside, understanding both cause and effect. Mary was screaming again. "Someone fire back!" Confusion reigned as Marcus sat still and puzzled things through. "That is why we're committed, Doctor," Mary raged. In the light pool, sunlight gleamed across high towers and metallic blue, purple, and green domes. A small cloud spilled into the air before what Marcus realized was a single ship, and the cloud, small shapes, which exploded in size. Deadly sky ships, these ones like the ones Marcus had battled in the harbor. The pirates commanded a mothership of their own, and it was coming for them. You have been listening to Asunder, the first in a series of tales after the War of the Worlds. For more information, please visit servingworlds.com. Music, Ibrido Umano, by Dano, available at danosongs.com. Title image, War of the Worlds, by Adam Blakemore. Learn more about Adam's artwork at blakey00.deviantart.com. Thank you for listening.